Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into something pretty powerful today. Cheryl Strayed's memoir, Wild. Have you got a chance to check it out?
I have, yeah. Really fascinating look at her experience hiking the Pacific Crest Trail.
The PCT, right? That's what is it, like 2,650 miles from Mexico to Canada?
Yeah, you got it. A massive undertaking for anyone, but especially for Cheryl, considering, her background.
Exactly. That's what we're going to dig into. Not just the physical journey, but the internal one, too.
Okay.
Because this wasn't just a hike for her, it was like a whole life upheaval.
Absolutely. She was dealing with, well, a lot of baggage.
Yeah.
Loss of her mother, her marriage falling apart.
And she wasn't exactly like a seasoned hiker, right? More like jumping in headfirst with maybe not all the right gear or experience.
Yeah, she even admits to packing, get this, the world's loudest whistle out of fear. Like, even though she barely knew how to use a compass.
Almost like she was intentionally setting herself up for a challenge, don't you think?
You could definitely see it that way. Maybe it was her way of really facing the unknown, forcing herself to rely on instinct, inner strength.
Okay, so let's talk about that baggage. Her childhood was, well, pretty unique. Her family built their own house, no electricity, plumbing. It was like a little house on the prairie in modern times.
Right. I mean, how do you think that kind of upbringing shaped her approach to the PCT?
It's got to play a role, right?
For sure. Growing up in that environment, self-reliance was key. So it's possible that instilled in her a certain, resilience, resourcefulness that maybe she didn't even realize she had, but it was there.
Like a training ground for this massive undertaking, even if she didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
And then there's her relationship with her mother, Bobby. That seems to be a major theme in the book, especially contrasted with her relationship with her father.
Absolutely. That mother-daughter bond was, I think, the anchor in her life.
Hmm.
And when Bobby passes away from cancer, Cheryl's grief is just, it's overwhelming.
It manifests in, well, some pretty self-destructive ways, right? Infidelity, heroin addiction. She was trying to numb the pain, but ended up even more lost.
Yeah, and she describes feeling like dead to her husband, Paul, even though she still loved him. It shows how grief can just completely warp your reality.
Makes it hard to connect with even the people you love the most. It's heartbreaking.
Grief can be so isolating, absolutely. And then for Cheryl, who already had a difficult childhood, a strained relationship with her father, losing her mother was like losing a part of herself.
Almost like she was seeking to physically lose herself on this massive trail to try and find herself again, reconnect with some core strength she'd lost. And then right in the middle of all this turmoil, she decides, almost on a whim, to hike the PCT. What do you make of that decision, like from a psychological perspective?
It's definitely a turning point. On the surface, you could say it's escapism, right? Running from her pain.
Mm.
But the choice of the PCT, with all its inherent challenges and demands, it suggests something deeper. Maybe like an element of self-punishment, a subconscious desire for, redemption.
It's not just about escaping her life, but pushing herself to the limit, proving something.
Exactly. It's like she's seeking a trial by fire, both physically and emotionally. And this decision to hike the PCT, it becomes the catalyst for her transformation, even if she wasn't fully aware of it at the time.
And as we'll see, that transformation definitely doesn't come easy. The PCT throws everything at her, pushes her to the brink, both physically and mentally. So Cheryl's on this impulsive journey, driven by, like we said, grief, escape, maybe even a need for, I don't know, some kind of self-punishment. And she finds out pretty quickly that the PCT is not going to be a walk in the park. It's a test, a real test, even for experienced hikers, right?
Oh, totally. And remember, she's starting this with like zero preparation.
Yeah.
Not just the gear, but her body too. The book, it goes into detail about her blisters, losing toenails, the back pain. It's like her body's saying, whoa, hold on, what are we doing here?
It's brutal. And then on top of that, there's the mental and emotional stuff, right? The loneliness, the fear. She talks about being terrified of other hikers, especially men. Makes you think about how vulnerable you are out there, especially as a woman alone.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like even in this beautiful, idyllic setting, the real world doesn't just disappear. All the anxiety, societal pressures, especially for women, they're still there. Safety, boundaries, it's all amplified out in the wilderness.
There's that one incident, remember, with the three young bucks. At first, it seems kind of harmless, even a little flirty, but then it gets, well, creepy. She feels threatened. It's a reminder of the danger she's facing out there.
That incident, it's a turning point for her. It forces her to confront her own, past experiences with men, those unhealthy patterns she's fallen into.
Yeah.
She even mentions, I think it was an astrologer who told her that her father's damage had infected her. Like she's starting to see these connections between her past and what she's struggling with right now.
Wow. So the PCT, it's more than just a physical journey, right? It's this space where she's working through these deeper psychological wounds, those patterns of seeking validation from men especially that leave her feeling, well, empty.
It is, yeah. And as she hikes, you see her starting to really analyze those patterns. She becomes aware of how she's compromised her own values to, get approval, affection. It's like the PCT is this crucible for self-discovery, forcing her to face those hard truths about herself.
It's powerful stuff, like the vastness of the wilderness. It's like a mirror to what's going on inside her. There's nowhere to hide, no distractions.
Exactly. The solitude, it's a challenge and a gift all at once. It's tough because she has to sit with her own thoughts, face those demons, but it also gives her the space, the time for some deep introspection.
And as she peels back those layers, you start to see her reclaiming her power. It shows in how she interacts with other hikers. She's more assertive, setting boundaries, speaking her truth.
There's a real evolution in her sense of self. She goes from lost and broken to finding her voice, her strength. It's not that she becomes this fearless, invincible person overnight, right? There's still doubts, setbacks, but there's this growing self-awareness, this agency.
Like when she meets Jonathan, the bartender who loved Wilco, she's drawn to him the possibility of romance. But then there's that fear that she'll repeat the same mistakes, let a man define her.
Yeah, it's that inner struggle, right? The old patterns, they come back. But this time, she recognizes them, questions them, and she chooses herself, her healing, over that maybe unhealthy relationship.
It's huge. She realizes she doesn't need a man to, complete her, validate her. She's enough. And that realization, it extends to how she feels about her divorce from Paul. Sadness, of course, but also this, sense of peace.
Like, she understands that sometimes letting go is the kindest thing for yourself, for the other person. And as Cheryl keeps going on the PCT, that feeling, the acceptance, the letting go, it just gets stronger.
That part where she reaches Crater Lake, it's striking. She describes it as the bluest blue she's ever seen. And she's just overwhelmed by this feeling of, tranquility, wholeness.
Such a powerful moment. It's like all that pain, the struggle, it melts away. And it's not just the beauty of nature, it's the culmination of everything she's been through, all that inner work.
It's like her internal landscape. It's reflected in what she sees around her.
Exactly. It's this beautiful integration. She's made peace with her past, with her grief, with her flaws. There's forgiveness for herself, for others.
And then there's that funny part, remember? She bumps into Jimmy Carter, not the president, the quirky reporter she met earlier on the trail. And he doesn't even recognize her.
It's symbolic, isn't it? How much Cheryl has transformed physically, emotionally. She's a different person than the one who started out in the Mojave Desert. Lighter, in every sense.
As she's nearing the end of the PCT, there's this anticipation, but also a little sadness. The feeling of any ending, right? But it's also knowing that this ending is a new beginning.
She's not that broken woman anymore. She's found her strength, her voice, her own, wildness. And when she gets to the Bridge of the Gods, the end of the trail, there's this quiet accomplishment. It's the perfect ending to such a raw, honest story.
Like a sigh of relief, I did it. But then there's also that question, what now?
It makes you wonder, right? What are our own Pacific Crest trails? What are the challenges that push us, that force us to confront our own wildness? Because we all have those mountains to climb, those uncharted territories within ourselves.
We've really been on this journey with Cheryl Strayed, haven't we? Walking with her, along the Pacific Crest Trail, seeing her go through this incredible transformation. I mean, battling these physical challenges and then facing her deepest fears. And ultimately, she finds the sense of peace. It's a journey that really gets to you, even if you've never hiked a day in your life.
It does. It's like Cheryl's story shows us that, sometimes we have to lose ourselves to really find ourselves, that wilderness, the trail. Yeah. It's like a metaphor, right, for all those challenges, the uncertainties we face in life.
Yeah. She had to strip away everything, her stuff, her comforts, those old ways of thinking to get to the core of who she was. Almost like she had to break herself down before she could build herself back up again.
Right. And it's that resilience, right? Tapping into this strength that maybe we don't even realize we have. Cheryl's journey wasn't about beating the PCT. It was about conquering herself, facing her demons head on.
And what I find interesting is that she doesn't come out of this whole experience as this, perfect, enlightened being. She still has her past, her regrets, her flaws, but there's this new sense of acceptance, peace with who she is.
That's what makes it so relatable, so human. Personal growth, it's not about erasing the past or becoming someone totally different. It's about learning to, like, integrate those experiences,
Yeah.
the good and the bad, and then moving forward, but with more self-awareness.
Yeah. And so much of her journey was about letting go, wasn't it? Letting go of grief, guilt, that need to control everything. And by letting go, she finds this freedom, liberation.
And that's a huge lesson for everyone, I think. What are we holding on to? You know,
Right.
what's weighing us down? What do we need to let go of to really grow, to evolve?
And it doesn't have to be hiking 2,650 miles, right?
Right.
Cheryl's story is a reminder that we all have those Pacific Crest Trails, those challenges that push us, make us face who we really are.
Absolutely.
Right.
Be a relationship, it's a career change, loss, or even just, daily life that feels overwhelming sometimes. What matters is that we approach those challenges with, like, that same courage, that same resilience that Cheryl had.
Yeah, her story, it teaches us that we're capable of so much more than we think. We have the power to, overcome things, to
Yeah.
heal, to transform, to find our way back even when we feel lost.
And sometimes those most difficult paths, they lead us to the most incredible views. So if you're feeling a little lost right now, remember Cheryl's journey. Embrace the unknown. Step outside that comfort zone. And trust that you have that strength to find your way back to yourself.
I love that. And on that note, thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into Wild. I hope Cheryl Strayed's story has, gotten you thinking, maybe even inspired you a little bit. And who knows, maybe sparked a little wanderlust. Until next time, keep exploring, keep seeking, and keep growing.